I will now ask Siân Williams to share her thoughts.
Oh, thank you very much. I have a few slides, so I shall just share my screen. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the exhibition, Robert Owen, Legacies That Last, that I curated in 2008 now to mark the 150th anniversary of Robert Owen's death, working alongside colleagues in the Robert Owen Network. But first of all, I just thought it might be helpful just to, I'm picking up a little bit on what Liz was saying, thought it might be helpful to just briefly outline some of the resources that we have at Swansea University for those that are interested in studying cooperative history or heritage. So our collections are held at the South Wales Miners Library, the picture at the top, and the Richard Burton Archives. And I will just say at this point, I am a librarian. I'm not a historian of the co-op movement in any shape or form. We have a collection, and our collection of co-op material is just one of many collections that we hold which document the social, political, cultural and educational history of industrial South Wales. So my talk is very much coming from the position of a deep-seated interest in these collections, but how we provide access to them, how we best provide access to all. So the collections that we have relating to the co-op movement date from the early 70s, when the history department at Swansea University obtained funding to undertake the Coalfield History Project. And during that project, 4 researchers scoured South Wales, Coalfield, looking for all manner of documents and photographs from the trade union movement, miners' institutes and welfare halls. And they collected banners, they collected oral history interviews. And as a result of this, we have quite a large collection at both the South Wales Miners Library and in the Richard Burton Archives. And at the time, the South Wales Miners Library was set up as a result of this project as a centre for research. During the project, records from the Aberdare and District, Ammanford, Britton Ferry and Neath and Tom Pentre industrial cooperative societies were collected, including minute books, account books, rule books. Material was also deposited by individuals involved in the cooperative movement, such as Abel Morgan of Innisable and Alistair Wilson of Aberdare. The collections that we have are split, as I've mentioned, between the Miners Library and the Richard Burton Archives. So the minute books, the letters, the photographs are in the Richard Burton Archives, while the printed collections, oral histories, are held at the South Wales Miners Library. Since the Coalfield History Project in the 1970s, the cooperative group have deposited many more records from cooperative societies across South Wales, including a large collection which was deposited in 2007. This collection covers the mid-19th century to the early 21st century, and it includes administrative and financial records of cooperative societies, as well as correspondence, press cuttings, society histories, tokens, copper printing blocks, and material published by the cooperative movement, such as on education. We, for example, have lesson notes from the Cooperative Union Education Department, which were courses run in 1940 to 1955. We've also got copies of pamphlets produced by the Member Relations Office in Swansea, and I think it is very much thanks to the foresight of those working in those offices such as Roger Davis, who I worked alongside, that much of this material was created, and in fact original documentation and records from the societies were deposited with us at Swansea University and do still exist. So the variety of the documents that are found within the collection is particularly apparent with the example of Aberdare and District Cooperative Society. And you will note on the screen there is an image from Home magazine of a typical image I would like to think of Aberdare. In addition to copies of Home magazine, there are minute books from the late 20th century and lots of other written material, including balance sheets from 1872, various papers regarding the staff of the society, such as a reference for Edward Harris, who was the baker, a selection of speeches given at annual staff reunions in the 1950s, and notes and histories of the society, as well as I've already mentioned copies of Wheatsheaf and Home magazine, which were issued by Aberdare and District Cooperative Society between 1898 and 1963 are the dates that we have in our collection. We've not had huge amounts of archival material deposited with us since. However, at the South Wales Miners Library, we have consciously been trying to expand our collection of printed material relating to the cooperative movement, really to provide context to the archival material which has been deposited. And in addition to copies of some of the well-known publications by Cole and Hollyoake, we have collected a more specialist reference collections with histories of local cooperative societies, national reports, directories, and periodicals. And in recent years, I've been very grateful to the National Cooperative Archive for depositing duplicate copies of cooperative news and other publications, which means that researchers based in South Wales particularly no longer need to visit the National Library of Wales or Manchester to access these. They are available to view at the South Wales Miners Library. And this is perhaps a source of further collaboration between us in the future. We have catalogued the collection, and it is available to, the catalogue at least is available to view online, but we have tried to do some interpretation, and this is an example, the Coalfield Web Materials website that we produced many years ago. We have attempted to do some interpretation, at least, of some of the collections that we hold, and there are some images to some of the photographs and other materials that are held in our collections as well. So in around 2007, around the time that we had this large deposit from the cooperative group, a steering group was set up at Swansea University with the intention of promoting research into the history of the cooperative movement in South Wales. And as part of these initiatives, I was invited to join the Robert Owen Network, which is made up of the cooperative group, the Robert Owen Society, the Robert Owen Museum, Cooperatives and Mutuals Wales, and many others, to plan events to mark the 150th anniversary of the death of Robert Owen. And I will now just talk a little bit about the exhibition that was produced as a result of that. So many of the events that were organised centred on Newtown, including a lecture by a certain Professor Chris Williams, which was held in 2008. There were also other events like a family fun day. The local schools were involved, and one of the local schools put on a play, for example, and it was a very collaborative process. But one of the activities was to create an exhibition which could tour Wales and look at how we got the message about Robert Owen and about the cooperative group and the cooperative movement more generally out to the public. So I was fortunate enough to receive funding from the Heritage Lottery Fund and the Welsh Government to curate a physical and an online exhibition, and Robert Owen Legacies That Last was the result. And the quote which is on the screen, I gave important truths to the world, and it was only for the want of understanding that they were disregarded. I have been ahead of my time. That was really the starting point for the exhibition. And I'm very grateful to both the Robert Owen Museum and the National Cooperative Archive for their support and in enabling me to access their materials to create the exhibition. So using quotations from Owen's writings and speeches that he'd given, the exhibition explored some of the issues that Owen had been addressing at the time of the Industrial Revolution, such as education, living conditions, social responsibility, fair trade, and environment. Each theme was explored on a pull-up banner, as much as you can explore a theme in 100 words on a pull-up banner. But this was the exhibition panels that were produced, and the pull-up banners were actually produced and printed on cotton fabric as a nod to Owen's cotton mills. We wanted the exhibition to be portable, hence it was on pull-up banners. And we wanted the banners to be able to stand alone singly, as well as form a larger exhibition, depending on space available. In the spirit of lifelong learning, we wanted the panels to be accessible to adults as well as children. So the bottom part of the banner posed questions aimed at our younger visitors. There was also a spot the difference on the logos across the bottom of the screen, which proved very popular with all. So the exhibition was officially opened at the Senedd on the 21st of February 2008, and then it went touring around Wales. Its first port of call being Newtown Library, where photographs with members of the Robert Owen Network and some young people enjoying the exhibition were taken. We wanted to provide a range of creative and interesting resources alongside the exhibition, which both schools could use, but also could be used within the exhibition space. And apologies for the quality of the photograph, but this is one of the photographs I took while it was on tour around Wales. So we have the panels. We also have Robert Owen's travelling trunk, which travelled with the exhibition, and it contained a variety of resources from cooperative board games to jigsaws to facsimiles of letters written by Owen, a replica of the silent monitor that Chris referred to earlier, and various worksheets. But the exhibition did not just travel to museums and libraries. Here it is in a field at the Tolpuddle Martyrs Festival in 2008. And rather than having the large travelling trunk, we have a small travelling trunk which contained the games and the colouring and so on. But it was an opportunity to get the exhibition out to as many people as possible. The online version of the exhibition contained the text of the exhibition, but it also in a little bit more detail, but it also contained downloadable resources for teachers and learners. And it provided a timeline with key events to Owen's life and contemporary events to provide that context and to explain a little bit more about the time at which Owen lived and worked. some of the downloadable resources are on the screen. We also provided copies of these in the travelling trunk so that people could fill them in while looking around the exhibition, but also so that they could be used in schools as well. And everything that we produced was bilingual. I worked with an educational consultant to produce the teacher's resource pack, and we wanted to ensure that it linked in with the curriculum, and particularly we aimed it at citizenship, history, art, literacy and IT. The resource pack provided the exhibition text and also an outline of Owen's life and ideals. And it also then looked at 6 key themes: New Lanark School, factories, New Harmony, trades unions, and legacies that last. We worked with local authority education officers across Wales to publicise the resource and encourage schools to go and look at the exhibition while it was in their area. Schools, certainly in Newtown, went to visit it, but it was difficult in other areas to encourage schools to actually go and visit the exhibition. But website statistics showed that the resource was accessed, but perhaps not as much as we would have liked. And I think this is perhaps something that we could explore a little bit further. How do we in museums, libraries, archives work more closely with teachers? How do we get them to use resources that we have created? How do we work together to create them, to provide resources that will actually be used? The exhibition is now 13 years old, and it is still occasionally used. The trail sheets, the interactive resources are also used, but the website is now archived. And given it's the 250th anniversary of his birth, I think now is the time, and I'm very keen to revisit the exhibition and the resources that we produced. We have a digital platform at Swansea University that we have just started using, which I'm keen to use to rejuvenate the digital online exhibition. But with changes in the curriculum, the teaching resource, I'm fully aware, needs a complete review and complete rethink. And but I think it would be perhaps a useful starting point for others to work with us. And I would be very, very keen to work collaboratively with others to explore how we can make the resource and the work that has been done, not only by ourselves, but by others on Robert Owen and the cooperative movement more generally, accessible to lifelong learners. Thank you.
Siân, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely fascinating. And just to, the wealth of material in that exhibition is incredibly impressive. As you were going through it, I was just thinking of, there must be an opportunity to reintroduce people to this material. So I'm really glad that you ended with what you did. I think there's a very exciting opportunity there, isn't there, to extend the reach of it to new audiences on an ongoing basis. And maybe we can come back and talk about that in the discussion. So thank you very much for that.